Welcome back to Aisha's Academy, and today's video we're going to be going through cumulative frequency and just explaining what that basically means. So, although it sounds fancy, just to break it down for you, cumulative frequency basically means when you add all the frequencies together. Cumulative, like the word accumulate, so accumulate is like a collection of things, you're adding things together. That's basically what it means. So again, I'm just going to draw a table of what you would see in an exam scenario. Once again, I think I mentioned this in another statistics video, but when I'm drawing these tables, you're not expected to know what values are meant to go in or etc. This is just an example type of question of cumulative frequency, so don't be worried about knowing what values to put in, etc. So in this example that I'm going to be going through, I'm comparing height and frequency. So this could be heights of individuals in school or just heights in a general population. You don't really need to know what the height is for. This is just for the purpose of the example. So I'm just filling in the class interval on the left hand side as usual, and then your frequency, you would usually see it on the right hand side. So just filling it all up now. Okay, so now that we have all the frequencies, next thing is that in an exam scenario, they would want you to draw a cumulative frequency graph. So before doing that, you need to add a cumulative frequency column to your table. So as I mentioned previously in the beginning, cumulative frequency basically means you're going to add all the frequencies together. So I'm going to show you how to do that in an exam situation. So for instance, the first value for the frequency would just be 15. The second value for the cumulative frequency would be 27, because we're now adding the 15 and the 12, and then so on. So now you've got 27, you do 27 plus the next frequency, and so on. So I've put the adding in the table just for showing you how to work it out. But if you understand how to work it out, then you can just put your answers in that column, or you can just put the adding so you don't confuse yourself. So that would be the cumulative frequency. Right? Then the next step is that you're going to jot the points onto the graph. But one thing I want you to know is that your x and y values for each point is that your x value, aka your height, is not going to be the midpoint. So with frequency polygons, you are plotting at the midpoint, but with cumulative frequencies, you're plotting at the higher end, so the upper end of the class interval. So for instance, the point that you would be plotting on, for instance, the first class interval, 140 to 150, you would be plotting at 150. For the next one, at 160, so on. You're focusing on the upper end of the class interval, and your y points for the points that you're plotting on the graph are going to be your cumulative frequency. So you're not going to be plotting down your frequency on the graph at all. So with frequency polygons, it was midpoints and the frequency. With cumulative frequency, it's the higher end of the class interval and the cumulative frequency. And this is really important for students to understand. So now that I've plotted down the x and the y axis, which in an exam situation they'd probably already do it for you, I'm going to plot down the graphs in how I explained, and notice how it's progressively getting bigger because it's accumulating. And then this time for cumulative frequency, you have a smooth curve. So obviously you doing it on paper, yours would be neater than mine is on this system, but yes, you're going to draw a smooth curve, so not straight jagged lines. And last thing I want you to know is median. So to work out median from cumulative frequency is 50% of the total cumulative frequency. You draw a line across and then down. For your lower quartile, it's 25% of your total cumulative frequency. So in this case, 25% of 97. draw a line across and down and work out that value. And then for your upper quartile, it's going to be 75% of your total cumulative frequency, which would be 75% of 97. Draw a line across and then work out the value of that. So those are the three things that you can work out from these graphs as well. So now we're going to go into some practice questions to consolidate our learning. So example 1. So in this scenario, it wants us to complete the cumulative frequency table. So as I mentioned before, cumulative frequency is when you add all the frequencies together. And so you're just basically going to do that going along. So the first one would be 2 plus the 9, then 11, then 11 plus the 23, and so on. So as I mentioned before, if you already understand this, then you can just plot the answer straight away. Or for some people, to make it nice and easier, you can show what you're adding together. So we've worked out our cumulative frequencies. Now it wants us to draw the graph. So remember, your points are from the upper end, so the higher end of the class interval, and you're plotting down the cumulative frequency values. And because they're cumulative frequency, they're adding together, you should notice that all your points should increase. And last but not least, you need to draw that nice smooth curve. Like I said, yours on paper would probably look nicer than mine. And then here it wants us to find an estimate of lorries with a speed more than 90 kilometers per hour. So the first thing is that I would draw a line up from 90 and across. That gives us a cumulative frequency of 88. Because I'm looking at the speed more than 90, I'm going to do 100, because that was 100 was the total cumulative frequency, minus 88, because that was a cumulative frequency at 90 kilometers per hour, which is 12. And that's basically it. Example 2. So here they've given us the cumulative frequency values and they want us to plot it on a graph. So this one's quite nice because we've already got the cumulative frequencies, we don't need to work them out. And remember, it's always from the upper end, so the highest value in each class interval. So plot them all on. So just remember, it's the upper end of the class interval, the cumulative frequency, plot the points on, and you've got that smooth S kind of shape curve. And try as much as possible to make sure that your smooth curve goes across all the points. Then in this scenario, it's saying Graham says that 10% of the workers at the factory are older than 65. So I've drawn a line up across from 65, and that's given us a cumulative frequency of 92. So those older than 65, it would be the total cumulative frequency, which is 200, minus 192, which would be 8. So really and truly, 8 of the workers out of the 200 are older than 65. So to work that out as a percentage, I'm going to do 8 divided by the total cumulative frequency of 200 times by 100, which would give me a value of 16% that are older than 65. So therefore, Graham is wrong. Example 3. So in this scenario, we're working out cumulative frequency. So again, we're just going to be adding up the frequencies together. Notice with the first class interval, it's always going to be, the first cumulative frequency is going to be the same as the frequency above because there's nothing else to add it on with. So it would just be 40, but then the rest would just be adding on. So that's our cumulative frequency, and I thought you'd expect it coming. We're going to draw it onto a graph. So draw it onto the graph, plot your points, and then draw that S-shaped curve. And for this follow-up question as well, it wants us to estimate the number of students who gained a mark of more than 50. More than 54. So now that we've plotted that all on, we've drawn our S-shaped curve. So then 54, draw a line up and across. That's a cumulative frequency of 164. We're going to do 200 because that's our total cumulative frequency, minus 164. That's going to give us a total answer of 36. So yeah, I hope that helps in terms of cumulative frequency, and thanks for watching, guys.